Hi everyone, this is Kat Rossi. I'm the Family Court Support Worker at the Sexual Assault Support Center of Waterloo Region. Today's video is going to be on the new method for filing family court documents online. A couple of weeks ago, I did a video on serving and filing court documents, and of course, a couple weeks later, we now have a new platform, so I wanted to go over how to use that. The court had been looking into ways to move to electronic platforms for filing and for potentially having virtual court dates even before COVID-19 happened. But COVID-19 really caused them to have to speed up with looking into how they could get this working as soon as possible. They had to quickly figure out how to conduct court dates and receive documents electronically when the court had to close in March because of COVID. So they started using Zoom to have court hearings online, and then they started allowing people to file their documents electronically by emailing the documents to a court email address at the specific courthouse in your jurisdiction. But these were meant to be temporary solutions. It's really not ideal to have everyone's documents being emailed to one generic email. It's really not the best platform for sending documents, and so that is only meant to be a temporary solution, and what they've come out with now is meant to be a more permanent one that will stay in place even once the courthouse is back to its full operations, so that it can be a more accessible way for people to file documents. So as of August 5th of this year, they implemented this new online website specifically for filing family court forms. So people are being encouraged to use this online filing whenever appropriate to reduce the amount of people that are physically going to the courthouse to file documents. Especially right now, even though we've gone into phase 3, they're still trying to make sure that people don't need to go to the courthouse, and so only people that really have to be there are there, and reduce the number of people that are actually in the building. So right now, they're hoping that people can use this platform as much as possible so that only people in really certain circumstances of urgency or others that I'll go into later will actually have to go in person. I provided a link below to the guide that I'm going to kind of provide the information around, but that guide talks about what documents can and can't be filed online and basically all the information we're about to get into. And the next link is for the actual sign-in, so that's the link that you go to sign in or create your account and then file your documents. So what documents can you file online? There are certain documents that you won't be able to file online, but the majority of them you can now. So for divorce applications, you used to be able to file some of them online if you met certain criteria, but they were filed through a different site. Now, you can continue to file divorce applications online through this site. You can file if you have a joint divorce application, and that's if you and your spouse are applying together for the divorce. So you're in an agreement about asking for a divorce as well as potentially other court orders. So if you both agree, the court can make the order for divorce along with orders for financial support, division of property, or even around custody and access or parenting. You can also file for a simple divorce, which is a divorce that you apply for on your own, and you're only asking for a divorce. You're not asking for an order about anything else. So those documents you can now file online. What are the other documents you can file online? So the majority of documents that are involved in a family court case can now be filed online. That includes when you're starting a family court application. So when you start and you bring an application, you've got your application form as well as some other documents. If it's around finances, you would have a financial statement. If it's around children and custody or access, you would have a Form 35.1, an affidavit in support of a claim for custody or access. So all of those forms for that initial application, you can file together online. In addition, if you have been served with a family court application that you need to answer, you can do that online. You can file documents related to attending a family court date. So this is something like if you have a case conference date coming up, you have to file a case conference brief. If you have a settlement conference coming up, you have to file a settlement conference brief. So those documents can be filed through this service as well. Also, if you're bringing a motion, so for example, if you're bringing a motion because you need the court to deal with an issue such as, child support, spousal support, things like that, you can put your documents into this online service to bring that motion. So you might have a notice of motion form and an affidavit in support of that motion. That can all be filed here. You can also respond to a motion. So if you've been served with a motion, you can file your responding materials, so your responding affidavit here. If you are bringing a motion to change, which is when you already have a court order or an agreement, but you want to make changes to that, you can bring that motion to change here. You can register a domestic contract. So for example, if you have a separation agreement and you want to file that with the court so that you can have the child or spousal support part of that agreement enforced through the Family Responsibility Office, meaning that they are able to then collect that support money for you, you can file your separation agreement or domestic contract through this online platform to have FRO enforce it. You can also file documents related to family court cases with CAS. So that's a child protection case. So anything involved in a child protection case documents, you can file those. You can also request a fee waiver certificate. This is something that you used to have to go physically to the courthouse to do. So before, even though some divorce applications could be filed online, if you required a fee certificate or a fee waiver, you would have to go to the courthouse to get that. Now you'll be able to request that fee waiver certificate online. And a fee waiver certificate, if you don't know what this is, it's a certificate that you can apply for, which is for low-income individuals that meet certain financial eligibility requirements. And basically what it means is that if there are any court fees required of you and you are able and eligible to get this fee waiver, then you can pay either no fee or a reduced fee because of that low-income status. Generally, there's a form that needs to be filled out for this to show that you are eligible. If you are on legal aid, you basically are automatically eligible. If not, you have to provide some further information about your income and your assets. But that's something that you can request now through this online platform. And just to mention as well, where that's normally required when we're talking about a fee waiver, in general, in our family court, there aren't fees associated with filing your documents. The one time that we generally have a fee is if you're filing for divorce. So with a divorce application, you have to pay a fee at both steps of the divorce application. Altogether, those fees are around, I think, $650, something like that in total. And so if you have a fee waiver, you can pay a reduced fee. So that's really when that tends to come in handy. So what requirements do you need to meet in order to be able to file your documents online? So to file your documents online, your documents have to be fully completed, and if they require a signature or a date at the bottom, they need to be signed and dated. Some documents also need to be commissioned, meaning that you need to go in front of a notary public or a commissioner of oaths and swear or affirm in front of them that the information in the documents you've completed is true. Certain documents that need to be commissioned are things like affidavits, financial statements, or that Form 35.1 affidavit in claim of a support for custody, or in support of a claim for custody or access. Things like that. What that means is normally you would need one of those people that are qualified to be there with you when you're signing that document, and they sign it as well to say that yes, you've sworn or affirmed those documents are true. If you have a lawyer, your lawyer can commission your documents for you. If you don't have a lawyer, generally this is something that you would do when you go to the courthouse. Court clerks are commissioners. They can do this for you when you file your documents. Otherwise, you would have to usually pay somebody to commission them for you. So you can commission a lawyer or pay for a lawyer to commission your documents, things like that. But generally, if you don't have a lawyer, you would get a court clerk to do this. So if you're filing your documents online, they need to already be sworn or affirmed if that's required. So if you're looking to file your financial statement, it needs to be commissioned already when you're filing it. You cannot file it uncommissioned. So unfortunately, that might mean that if you're self-represented, you might still have to file some documents in person because you need that court clerk there to commission your documents. However, if you have another way to get your documents commissioned, for example, if you have a lawyer that you work with on a kind of fee-for-service basis, you might be able to get them to commission your documents and then still file it online. Also, any documents that are going to be submitted should be saved individually as PDF files, and each of those PDFs has to be less than 10 megabytes, and all of the ones that you're filing together need to be combined less than 25 megabytes. And that's just the size of the documents. If you're not sure, if you right-click on a file and go to Properties, you can find out what size the document is. It should tell you, though, as well when you're uploading the documents if the file you're trying to upload is too large. If there's a fee, so for example, when you're filing for divorce, you have to pay that fee online when you're submitting your documents, and that can be done with Visa, MasterCard, or an Interac debit. So again, if you're going to file your documents, you need to have those files in a PDF form in the correct size that are signed and dated and commissioned already if that's required. So that might mean that you have to print out the document you've typed up, you sign it, you date it, you get it commissioned, you then scan it back into the computer and save it as a PDF file. So it's a little bit of extra work there. If you're worried about your access to a printer scanner, you can use certain apps on your phone to scan a document. It basically uses your phone to take a picture of the documents, but makes it into a better quality PDF format than an actual picture. And it does look pretty much like you would scan to the document using a computer scanner. So there are certain ones that you can look up. Adobe Scan is one. I think there's another one through Google. So you can look on your app store and see if there's one that you like to use if you're not able to access a printer or a scanner, if that's difficult for you. So what can't you file? So that is the majority of documents that are involved in a family court case, but there's a few exceptions here, and it's mostly around the timeline. So number one, if you're filing documents to ask for an urgent hearing. So if you're asking for an urgent motion, you can't file these documents online. And again, the reason is because it's urgent. So if you're asking for something urgently and you submit these documents, it's going to take time for the clerk to review your documents. And so that's going to be an issue if you're asking for something to happen right away. As well, if the documents that you're looking to file are for a court date that is equal to or less than 5 business days away, then there's not enough time for them to review and file your documents online. Same again, if you have documents that need to be filed within a deadline of 5 or less business days, they have to be filed not through this online service because there's not enough time. So it might be that, for example, if you have a case conference date scheduled, if you have more than 5 business days before that case conference, you can file your brief online. If you have less, you can't. Or if you have to, for example, file your answer to a family court application, you usually have 30 days from when it was served on you. So if you still have more than 5 days of that 30 days period, then sure, you can file your answer online through this service. If you have 5 or less days left of that 30-day period, you can't file it using this service. If you can't file your documents online, your options are to either go in person to the courthouse to file them, or in some cases right now, because of COVID, you can file them by email if that's still permitted. So you would need to check on the website for the Superior Court of Justice, which I've provided in previous videos, and I believe is also available on our website under Family Court Resources. If you check that in the Notices to Profession, it lists which documents right now can be sent to the courthouse for filing through email. And so if that's still allowed, you can do that. If it's not enough time away to file online, or you can go and file them in person at the courthouse. So how to use the service. So you'll have to create what's called a one-key ID, and this is how you'll sign into the website to file your documents. And I've provided the link here to create your one-key ID if you don't have one. Once you log in with your one-key ID, it'll give you a list of services that use this one-key ID. So select the appropriate one, which in our case is the Justice Services category. And then if you scroll down, within Justice Services, it'll list, civil court, family court, etc. Scroll down to find the link for filing family court forms. You're also going to want to make sure that you keep a copy of your documents for your own records. So if you're submitting it through a PDF file, save a PDF file on your computer as well, because once you submit these documents, you can't view them again through this online platform. As well, just keep in mind that this website, your session will expire if it's inactive for 15 minutes, and your information will not be saved. So if you want to go into this when you're ready to file, you've got everything together, you have the time. It's not if you're going to have to kind of step away from the computer for a few minutes, and your information might not be able to stay until you're ready to submit it. You might already have a one-key ID. There are certain other services through the ministries of the government that use one-key ID. For example, if you have an online account with the Family Responsibility Office, FRO also uses a one-key ID for their login. So if you have a one-key already, you can use that same one key, and then you're just selecting Justice Services instead of whatever category you've used previously. Just a quick note about privacy. Family court forms are public documents. So other than child protection files, which are generally sealed to the public, anybody can go to the courthouse and request to see a certain file if they have the file number. So whether you're providing your information through this online portal, or if you're filing the forms in person, that information in those forms can be viewed by the public. Again, it's not very likely that someone's going to be going to request your file at the courthouse unless they're involved in your file. But just in case you're worried about, the information on this, either way, technically it is public. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be cautious if you're filing online, meaning you might want to use a secure internet connection, like through your home Wi-Fi if you can, rather than somewhere at a public place where the Wi-Fi is, public. So if you're at a Starbucks or something like that, and also not somewhere where somebody can see you typing in your password from over your shoulder. So what happens afterwards once you've submitted the files? So if you're filing your divorce application, you will get an immediate confirmation once you submit them that your application has been filed with the court. It's a good idea to take a screenshot or print a copy of this screen for your records. If you're submitting the documents during business hours, which is between 8:30 and 5 for court, you'll get that email confirmation from the court on the same day, which has more information about the application you filed. If you file after 5 p.m., you'll receive this email the next business day. And this email will include a copy of the issued application, which means it has an official court seal on it. It'll have the date the application was issued, and it'll have the court file number that you've been assigned. And that's the file number that you use on all of your documents for that divorce application, as well as if you ever needed to find out something from that file, you would need to provide that file number. If you provide your email on the documents you submit for your divorce application, they will email you a copy of your divorce order. Whereas normally, if you file in person, you have to provide envelopes for you and your ex-partner, and they then mail you a physical copy of the divorce order. For other documents, what happens when you submit them is that you receive confirmation right away that your documents have been submitted, but not yet filed. Again, take a screenshot or print a copy of this screen for your records. Court staff will then review your documents within 5 business days. Once your documents have been reviewed, you will then get an email letting you know whether your documents have been accepted and filed or rejected. So if they've been accepted, you'll get the email which confirms your documents have now been filed. If it's rejected, the email will say that your documents have not been filed and will explain why. So it might be that there's an issue with how you filled it out, a space was left blank, maybe it wasn't commissioned or signed. They'll let you know what the issue is that needs to be fixed. And they'll indicate that any fees that you paid will be refunded because they are not filing those documents at this time. So you can see why they were saying that time-limited documents can't be filed through this online service, because it can take up to 5 business days for them to review these submitted forms. So make sure that you're checking your emails during those 5 days so that you get the confirmation and you know whether your documents have been filed or not. So what do you do if your documents have been rejected? So if they've been rejected, you can fix or address the issues with the documents and then resubmit the corrected documents online again if you're still within those appropriate timelines. Again, it might be that after this has happened, you now have less than 5 days before the deadline or your court date, and then you might have to file them in person or by email if that's allowed. Or even if it's within the timelines, if you like, you can fix the issues and then file them in person. So now we're going to take a look on the actual website. You can see here I'm on the login page. So once you enter your OneKey ID and password and go here, we're going to click on Justice Services Online. And then here you can see, as I mentioned, you're going to have to scroll past civil, and eventually here you'll get to family court. And you've got 3 options. So file a joint divorce application, file a simple divorce application, or family submissions online. And family submissions online is going to cover all of those other documents that we talked about. You can also scroll down here. There's some additional information on the terms of use and contact information if you need it. But in this case, let's move forward. Let's click Family Submissions Online and take a look. Gives you some more information that we've just kind of covered around filing fees and what you're going to need. You can also go through and read the terms of use for using the portal, as you should. I recommend you go through and read those before using it the first time. Once you've had a chance to do that, and if you agree to the terms and move forward, this is the submission page that you're going to see. So once you enter your email address, you're going to select the type of case, which is the court that you're operating in. For our family court in the Waterloo region, it's the Superior Court of Justice. You're then going to select the type of submission. So if it's a new application, then it's documents for a new case. Anything else, if you already have a court file number, you're going to be selecting file documents for an existing case. And if you're not sure what your file number is, it'll always be located on the top right-hand corner of your court forms, so you can look back at any previous forms to see what the file number is if you're not sure. You're then going to select the court location. So if we select Kitchener, it then asks you to fill in the court file number. So the file number always starts with FC for family court. The second box here is to represent the year. So for right now, it'll be 20 because it's 2020. And it's the year that the case was started, the application was brought. And then you'll have your other numbers in here. So you'll fill in your file number if you have it, if it's not a new application, and then you can upload your documents. So you'll come down here and you get a chance to select what type of document you're submitting. So for example, the application forms, the answer forms, could be a financial statement, an affidavit, and they're basically listed the same way that the forms are on the Ontario Court Forms website, where you can download blank versions of these forms. So you can select whatever form it is that you need to submit, And then you click on Upload Document, and it will allow you to pick a file from your computer. Once you do that, you can add additional documents. So you might, for example, for an application form, you might be filing a couple documents at once, your application form, and maybe a financial statement, etc. Once you've got those all uploaded, you just then hit submit. So it's a pretty simple process, as you can see. So just to go back for a moment here, what I wanted to talk about is, what if you're not sure about whether you can file online or not? We've talked about, what forms can and can't be, but it's always a good idea to get advice from a lawyer before filing your documents. They can let you know if you can file your documents online or if you need to file them in person. And they can also help you to review them and make sure that everything is correct before you send them in. If you're not sure how to get legal advice or how to speak to a lawyer, I provided some resources on the right-hand side of this page. You can call legal aid and speak to a family duty counsel lawyer to get some summary legal advice, even if you don't have a legal aid certificate. The Law Society of Ontario right now has a phone number for self-represented litigants to call for advice on if their matter is urgent during COVID. So you can call that number. You can call the number for the Kitchener-Waterloo Duty Council. You'll have to leave a message, but if you leave your name, the other party's name, and your phone number, you'll usually get a call back from a duty counsel lawyer within 1 to 2 days. You can also use the lawyer referral service online. Once you fill in the information about the type of matter you're looking for a lawyer to assist with, you'll get a referral to a lawyer in the area that deals with that type of law that can provide you with 30 minutes of free legal advice. You can also check out the website for the National Canadian Lawyers Initiative. This was started by some lawyers during COVID-19 to make sure that people have access to justice. I believe you can receive up to 5 hours of free legal advice. You can check more information out on their website, and you can also submit a request for assistance from them through their website. So that's it for me for today. If you have more questions, feel free to connect with me by email at courtsupport@saskwr.org, or you can give us a call at our office. Our information is all provided on our website. So thanks again for listening, and we'll talk to you again soon.